no way I'm going. There ain't got no way, I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No. There ain't got no way, I'm gonna make.
International Women's Day, and I know you ladies love to celebrate for an entire week. We don't have no problem with that. All right, so it's all good. So we'd like to ask our next lady, who is Gabriella Woods, our co-host, to introduce our guest, Laura Richards. Gabriella?
Thank you. Laura Richards is an international podcaster, number one best-selling author, and speaker dedicated to empowering women. Through her global podcast, That's Where I'm At, and her best-selling book, Married to a Nice Guy, Getting Over Narcissistic Abuse, Laura shares her personal journey of recovery from a 32-year marriage to a narcissist. Drawing from her own experiences, Laura's mission is simple: to shine a light on narcissistic abuse and let women know they are never alone and that healing is always possible. With an unwavering commitment to truth, Laura helps women rebuild their self worth, reclaim their voices, and step into a future filled with confidence and strength. The Gratitude Journal for Divorced Women, There is Hope: 52 Keys to Healing After Divorce. After years entangled in the grip of a narcissist, she found her freedom through divorce. She learned the hard way that secrets can poison us from the inside out, and the truth, no matter how dark, always finds its way to the light. So without further ado, let us welcome Laura Richards.
Hello. Thanks for having me. And Andy, we
Pleasure
don't
to
just
have
celebrate
you.
for a week, we're celebrating every day.
A whole month.
Goodness. Okay. I surrender. My bad.
Okay, good.
Next, we in trouble, boy. We in trouble. All right, no problem. We're going to keep that in mind. So, Laura, thank you so much for being with us.
Yes.
And we appreciate you and we appreciate the effort that you're taking. We know that you have so many commitments, but you are here with us. What I'd really like to begin with is to tell us basically what is the ongoing foundation of your story that has made it so unique and so special that whenever you tell it, Laura, it just brings some sort of resonance and people can say, yes, that's me. There's hope. What about your story is so unique that it stands out every time you tell it?
Well, I think it's because I was able to heal and that I was married for so long and didn't realize what was happening. And so when I tell my story, people are like, oh my gosh, how did you not know? And so when I tell my story, I feel like I'm giving people hope that we can grow and change and that we can learn no matter what age we are. And we can really, yeah, we can really learn and grow. And the biggest thing is that I have changed as a person through this experience and that it's not too late. That's the biggest thing. Especially when I talk to women in midlife. It's like it's not too late. We don't have to get to this point in our life and we've maybe had a divorce and then we say, is this it? Like, are we done? And I just want people to know that they're not done, that there is hope on the other side if you have to go through a divorce.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing, Laura. One of the main things that I observe is that based on your story, it seems to me as though people can mask the influence of narcissism in a real way, and you may not even know that you experience it, although you are actually experience it. How can we help women who may be innocent victims to recognize that it
Yeah.
is being masked, but behind that, something sinister is actually lurking?
Yeah. I mean, this is why I teach about red flags and also loving yourself. So these things go hand in hand. When we look, we've been taught wrong as women, we've been societalized to think about the fairy tale and the whirlwind romance and all these things, but that really can be dangerous if we're talking about somebody who is doesn't have integrity and they're looking to harm, someone. So with a narcissist, we have the malignant narcissist, which is really in your face. You really know they love themselves. But I was dealing with a covert narcissist, and that's somebody who behind the scenes at home is being abusive. And then in public is like the nice guy. And that's why I named my book what I did, that I was married to a nice guy. And so we're talking about love bombing, things like that, where the romance seems like it is too fast and it's a whirlwind, it's a fairy tale. And so we have to be careful of those things. And then in conjunction, we have to love ourselves enough that we won't put up with games, or we won't look for a love to fill our heart or fill that need. Because maybe we're missing something. Maybe we weren't loved the way we needed to be loved growing up. Maybe we're missing. So there's something that might need to be healed in us that is seeking out the love of another person to fill that need.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. And I'm glad that you spoke about that because I have something from Elizabeth John, and she says toxic relationships can severely impact your life
I think
if
it's
you
spam.
remain
Just
in
out of
them.
I'm just saying I think it's spam. I, I
Okay,
would I wouldn't
all
read it.
right.
Yeah.
All right, good. So we can remove that, Dex. Thank you so much, Laura. So, with regards to what you had been going through, when is it did you come to the point where you recognize, and I know it's transitionary, wait a minute, this is not what I signed up for. Something is definitely wrong. What is the one thing that you can recall and made you say, enough is enough, Laura, you deserve better? Help us remember.
So you have to think about your relationships. It doesn't matter what it is, any relationship that you're having. And if you think about that, the relationships we have, if they never change, can you continue living the life that you're living right now? So I really thought I could just love him until he was better to me. I could fix him somehow, right? And, that just as women, we're nurturers and that happens. And so it wasn't just one small thing, but I did finally start asking myself, if nothing changed, could I live like this for like 40 more years? And I said to myself, I could not. I couldn't do one more day because it's too much. Like you, after 33 years, why was I still explaining to my spouse what I needed from him? So we have to decide, you gotta have 2 willing partners. I did not have a willing partner. I felt like I was the only one trying to work on it.
How did you manage that? Realizing that, hey, I am alone in this when it's
Yeah,
supposed to be a partnership.
yeah,
How did you move on from that place? And what did that emotional burden feel like for you, Laura?
yeah, it was really, really heavy. I had a lot of good friends around me. I had my church community around me to encourage me. And then I was going also to talk therapy, and that really helped to really, break down. Look, I didn't know he was a narcissist at that time. I just knew there was a problem and that things were getting worse and that he wasn't trying anymore. And I felt very, very alone. And I wanted to make my marriage work, but like I said, you have to have a willing partner. And if I kept doing the things and he wasn't doing the thing, so I had to decide, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? And you can work out the details later, but you have to decide, because it got to the point where no matter how much I had of my community around me and even my faith, I didn't even feel like I wanted to be alive anymore because of how bad the emotional abuse was. And I didn't feel like I was loved or cared about anymore. And so I did seek professional help, to help me with that and to manage. what I was thinking to really figure that out. And there's lots of things that people can do, but get a trusted professional, someone who's going to work with you, because there are some bad ones, but get one that's good for you.
Wow. You mentioned the support of community, the people in the church, and maybe other personal friend or family members. Now that you recognize that it is important to have that kind of social or emotional support,
Mhm.
how would you advise someone to approach it? Because not everyone, Laura, would understand what you are going through.
Yeah.
And, there are some people who would just get the wrong impression and not maybe give you the proper advice. And as you rightly said, get a professional.
Yeah.
But what if you can't afford a professional
Yeah.
and you need some sort of community help, some people that you know and that knows you to just reach out, embrace you, give you some love, some kind words? How do we create the dichotomy between the two?
Well, I want to say that there's lots of ways to find community, but when you're asking the opinion of others, you have to be very careful because you may get answers you don't want to hear. I heard for a lot of years that I needed to stay and pray, and then I was being abused at home. And so that's what happens a lot of times for us. And so we have to maybe journal, take some notes, maybe do some research on our own. Even if we don't have access to free therapy, there are tons of resources on YouTube and on the internet. I found lots of videos that I didn't know what was going on, but I was starting to understand that if I need to make a choice for me, like what are we trying to prove? And in society, of course, people say that everyone gives up on their marriage and divorce is, running rampant. We can't let the words of other people and society and all that around us keep us stuck in a place that we don't want to be or is unsafe for us to be. And that's that. So you have to work that out for yourself. Maybe ask a trusted friend, what do you think? And they might tell you, yeah, you don't seem like you're okay. But I was such great actress. I was faking it till the end that people didn't know that there was something wrong, other than when I would complain about my bad marriage. I didn't know what was going on. And so there were friends who noticed things, but not enough to say like you should get out.
I'm touched. I'm moved. Thank you so much for sharing, Laura.
Yeah.
I would like Gabriella to come in now. I have had some fun for the past 6 minutes or so
You're the best. I appreciate you.
as well. Thank you.
Awesome. So, Laura, from your perspective, could you explain to us how narcissistic abuse differs from other forms of abuse? Other
Mhm.
forms of emotional abuse, and why it was so difficult to escape.
So, I didn't say 33 years just for fun, right? But with narcissistic abuse, it's an emotional abuse. It can be physical. I did not experience that. It's usually emotional and psychological. So imagine that you are being psychologically manipulated for decades, right? And this can happen to anybody at any time because it's a very slow drip. They often call it death by a thousand cuts. It's a little bit at a time. It's a snide remark here, it's a put down there. And to the point where you don't even trust your own thoughts and feelings. You don't realize what's going on. And that's why it's so hard to leave. And then by this time, you are often trauma bonded. So the trauma bond happens, it's a chemical reaction in our brain that the person who's abusing us is also the person who's soothing us. And that our brain gets so confused, and it actually is a chemical reaction. So to try and leave, your brain is like, no, we can't leave. It feels like a drug addiction where because your brain is being chemically um, manipulated to feel like I can't live without this person, even though he's abusing me, and that's why it's so hard to go. Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was reading up on this because this topic is very dear to me because I always wondered, what will drive someone to become like this? I always wanted to get into the brain, of the matter. And as you said, with the brain, you become so, it's like a survival mode where you're blindsided as to what is happening. You're not, and persons may ask you, how come? How you didn't see the signs, you didn't see the red flags? How could you not know you was in that abusive relationship? But the brain is formed in such a way and wired in such a way for you to just be in a survival mode rather than see
That's it.
what is happening. But for those who are listening, love bombing, as you explained before, could be misunderstood as genuine affection. And how can
Yes.
women distinguish between love bombing and healthy love?
And, it feels good, right? It feels good when they're love bombing us and they're like fawning over us and telling us those wonderful things. But what we have to remember is slow down. You don't need to be in a hurry. Like we often see movies and fairy tales and they run off and get married right away. And it's like, or hey, slow down. Because if someone is abusive or trying to manipulate you or take advantage of you, they want you to rush because we can't think very well when we're rushing. And so it feels good because those endorphins are coming at us and everything feels great and it feels, amazing. It's okay to live in that and be around that. And it's okay but be careful. You don't have to rush. You really don't have to rush. And that's what I always recommend. Take your time. And then we don't want to test. Like I always say this and it sounds wrong. I don't want you to like go around testing your date or your partner. But sometimes you have to put yourself into a situation that might make them lose their temper or might make them upset just to see what would happen like if you're out in public or something because people who are toxic or abusive cannot hold it together for very long. They really can't. That's why you need to take your time. You need to wait so that you can really see. And look, it's not foolproof, but slowing down is the way to do it.
Awesome. Yes, and a lot of times they may not show those signs pre your marriage. They
Yes.
actually show the true self within a marriage. But many women fear the retaliation
Yeah.
or of the physical harm that may come with leaving a narcissist.
Yes.
What practical steps can give to protect persons, from their abusers if they threaten violence?
Yes. And I wasn't in that situation, but I have learned from doing my research that that is the most dangerous time. It is when you're going to leave. So they say to leave quietly and make a plan. So you don't have to go, I'm leaving. Here I go. You don't have to do that. Some people, their partner goes to work and then they leave because it's a dangerous time. You need to make a plan. And there's tons of resources on my website as well that will help you, make plans. I have some people who have talked about it on my podcast and they talk about making that plan and then leaving quietly. You cannot announce it. You can't threaten them because you could get hurt. Some of them, I wasn't in that danger, but I know it happens. And that's what the statistics show.
Wow.
Yeah.
And financial dependence is sometimes one of the major reasons from my researching that some women stay.
Yeah.
He's the provider. He is the one who is the breadwinner. He's taking care of the home. We have children. How do you overcome, or how did you overcome the financial barriers when you decided to
Yeah.
leave? This narcissistic relationship, and what advice would you give to women who may feel financially, trapped and do not want to leave?
Yeah. I don't have the exact formula for you, but I do know that there are people who can help you with this. Um, I really left with nothing and I was happy to do that because I wanted out. And that's not always, I had a family member to move in with um and that's not always possible for everybody, but there are resources out there to help you. When there's people who will help you not only make a plan to leave, but plan financially. And I always, if you're not in an abusive situation, I would still recommend that you have your own money, maybe your own job. And if you can't, if you decide you want to stay home with the kids or whatever, just think about having your own money or your own resources. so many divorce attorneys and judges will say that the minute the woman does not, and it's usually the woman, the minute the woman does not have access to funds, that's when they're in trouble. Because when we have money, we have freedom. And, that's why we have to make sure we have our own money, we have our own resources, maybe our own job or a little side gig or something. You have to have your own money. But there are tons of people who can help you figure out how to get out. I mean, yes, my state is 50-50. So yes, I got half of what we had, but I would have lived in a ditch. I didn't care. I just needed out or I was not going to survive.
I love it.
Yes. Imagine living it.
The emotional abuse is very subtle.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Wow, and that's dangerous because subtle
Right.
means you may not even recognize
Right.
because of that imbalance in your hormones in the brain and that love bombing that you
Right.
aptly describe it.
And that's why you have to that's why we talk about it, because a red flag, people say, "Why didn't you leave at the first red flag?" I said, "Well, the
Mm,
first red flag didn't look red.
yeah,
It
yeah,
looked, there were so many green flags." And then
right.
he would throw in a red flag, and the red flag just sounded like, "Oh, you're wearing that?" And then you go, "Well, yeah, what's wrong with it?" "Oh, nothing. You're fine." But that's how subtle it is, and it's a little bit at a time, and they do that over and over to the point where you're like, "Okay,
Yeah,
well, I'm never wearing this shirt again." And
yeah.
that's how they know they're controlling you.
Mm,
Things like I've heard of people saying, "My ex always wanted me to have my fingernails painted, and she always had her fingernails painted." And that's how they know they can control you, because you never go without fingernail polish, because they said that you should have fingernail polish. So it's little things like that. Look,
yeah.
that doesn't sound terrible, but do that for a long time. And pretty
Mm,
soon you can't even make your own decisions because you don't know what's going on.
yeah. Wow. Okay, great. She says it's also best to have your own money. So she just
Yes.
support what you said, Laura,
Yeah.
that creating that level of independence and freedom.
Right. And it doesn't have to be because you're going to leave, but every person I've talked to about money, judges, divorce attorneys, they always say when the woman doesn't have her own money, there's less choices. Money is freedom. Money is, it gives us choices. That's for everybody. That's for everybody. So we have to find ways to make money. There's money out there. We just have to find ways to make it so we don't have to settle. And if we're in a situation, we can go.
Whoa, this is like school here for us. Thank you so much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
I think Dexter has lined up a video that you should recognize, Laura. It's quite familiar, but I thought it's the appropriate time for us to play it, and then we'll have a little break and we'll look at the thought of the week. So go ahead, Dex. Just run the video for us.
Hi, I'm Laura, and I was married to a narcissist for 32 years without even realizing what narcissism was. And I want to share my story today of how I healed and how you can heal too. And at the end, I'm going to share two uplifting reflections that you can start applying to your life right now. So I didn't even know what emotional abuse was, narcissistic abuse, none of that, because I grew up in that time, like maybe some of you have, where unless you were being physically harmed, you weren't being abused. And so I didn't even know what it was. And I thought I had gotten a divorce for irreconcilable differences. And I started to understand during my healing what narcissism was and what had happened to me in my life. I saw a video that changed my life. And the reason it changed my life was because it validated my experience. I don't know if you've ever felt like that. Like when someone really understands your story and you feel seen and heard, as human beings, we have such a need to be seen and heard. And when I saw this video that told me what narcissism was, I was like, I feel seen and heard and understood.
Wow. Laura, I want you to again go back to that moment when the video made that impact and how it felt for you emotionally so that someone in real time can actually see that in a similar fashion because that is where you got your break. Yeah. I was asking you about looking at the moment that you saw the video and you got that breakthrough and you recognized the true nature of narcissism, how it felt. And if you can share that emotional feeling now that someone could resonate with it so that they would know that they are on the path to getting out of that relationship. Wow.
Out. I'm so sorry.
I don't know why that's happening.
Well, that's okay. I don't know what happened. So, and I only saw, I could only see at the bottom that you guys were playing one of my videos, but I don't know which one it was. Like, I don't know which part of the video it was. Was it, did I say I was married to a narcissist for 32 years? Was it that one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mm,
I
yeah.
thought it was. Okay. Okay, now I can hear you. What's your question?
Yeah. So the question was when you saw that video and you got that emotional breakthrough and you recognize, hey, this is what I have been experiencing and now
Yeah.
I am being seen and I'm being heard. What did that feel like for you and how you can help someone to get to that place where
Yeah.
they can embrace that feeling and
Yeah.
move on? Yes?
Yes. So I said, it's so great. The thing for me was that it gave a name to my pain because for so many years I was so confused. I was just trying and trying and trying to make my marriage work and things were difficult and hard and you can go to therapy all day long. You can go to marriage counseling all day long, but if nothing is working, it felt frustrating to me. And then I would go home and he would just like act like a jerk again, and so it was really hard. And so once I found out, I saw some videos that talked about narcissistic abuse. Once I figured that out, I put the pieces together and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what's been happening. And so that's why I talk about it, because as as humans we have a deep need to be seen and heard, and that's what it felt like to me, to have a name for my pain and say, this is what you've been experiencing. So now I can heal from it because I know exactly what happened to me. It put all the pieces together. I am telling you, it put every single piece together for me. And I said, no wonder I was having such a hard time. No wonder it was so difficult. That he was never going to change. He was never going to fix it. And so now I know that it's not about me. So now I could do my healing from a different perspective of this happened to me, but I have a name for it and I can move forward in my healing. And so that's why I share even sometimes the boring things of like the definitions of things, because it's important that we know it so that we understand it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So we're going to take a short break and just have the thought of the week. And it is very apt when you see the thought of the week. You'll understand why I chose this one because, men, it is time that we take our rightful place and be the supporter, the lover, the friend, the provider, and the protector for the women that God has placed in our lives. It says, the best of men face challenges daily, and the least of men run from them. Now is not the time to run from the challenges. Now is the time to stand up and face the challenges. We have too many dysfunctional families, too many dysfunctional homes, and our young people are the ones that are suffering and hurting. And our women mainly are feeling all that loneliness and that desperation and that depression all by themselves because there's a man around, but he's not being the man. It's just by name. So, men, you have an opportunity to stand up, face the challenge. When you do that, you send a strong statement to your family, to your woman, to your wife. Hey, I'm here for you. I'm doing the best that I can. Let's depend on God to take care of the rest. But don't run away from the challenge. Be a good man and stand up and face it and be there for your family because they need you the most. And sometimes, especially your spouses, your wives. Okay, good. Thank you, Dex, for the thought of the week. And now I'm going to go right back over to Gabriella for some more wonderful questions with Laura.
Thank you very much, Andy. Laura, it has been 32, 33 years, right, since you have been married to this person. And
I was married for 33 years.
married,
It's only been a couple years since we were divorced. Yeah.
right. So, with that being said, when it came to you making this decision of being divorced, this is your exit strategy or this is your solution. Did it in your mind, get rid of the problem? Was that the answer and the solution? So when you decided to divorce and you came out of this narcissistic relationship, what was the aftermath for you?
It was it was hard because I really did think, "Oh, I'm getting rid of the problem." That's not what happens. You have
Yes.
to you're grieving, and we were together decades, and so there was a grieving process. And then I noticed that my body needed healing. Like, I felt very dysregulated. I wanted to sleep all the time. I was crying all the time, but you're grieving. So if you've ever grieved the loss of anybody, it's so hard when you're grieving the loss of somebody that's still alive and that betrayed you. And so that was really hard. Nothing I've ever experienced before. And so I had to really dig into my healing and go after my healing. I spent a lot of time just crying and sleeping, but then I really went after my healing and sought professional help and other mindfulness practices so that I could heal my entire body and be ready for the future. But you can't rush it. You have to give yourself grace because for me, I wanted to rush. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Okay, let's go to the healing. And you can't do that. Your body needs time to heal. Your brain needs time to heal. And especially if you've been in abuse, your brain wants to just rest because especially when we're walking on eggshells, we're thinking about the next move. Is he going to get mad? Is he not going to get mad? Am I going to have a bad day or not bad day? And so I had to learn how to relax, and it took time, but we have to give ourselves grace. It takes time.
And after leaving, many women, because being in a narcissistic abusive relationship, women lose themselves. They start to believe everything that person says to them. They lose their identity, basically.
Yeah.
So women who face identity crisis afterwards or during that situation and they leave, how did you rebuild your self-roots and find yourself again?
Yeah. I spent a lot of time journaling. That's my favorite thing to do. Journaling, like, everything I could think of, but like, who does God say I am? Right. And then also any other quotes that I found that were really speaking to my soul and making me feel better. Sometimes it was song lyrics, things like that. You have to speak life over yourself because you've had somebody speaking death over you for so long. And sometimes it takes standing in the mirror and saying, like, "You are amazing, you are beautiful," whatever. We can't talk to ourselves in the negative. Like, we don't say, like, "No, you are not a terrible person," because maybe they were telling us that. No, we don't say that. We say, "You are beautiful, you are loved, you're a great person." And that's I really recommend the practice of looking at yourself in the mirror and talking to yourself in the mirror. There's a lot of people who won't do it because they've been told in the past something terrible about themselves. And that is something that is a great practice to do. Look at yourself in the mirror, journal, write quotes down. I have stuff all over my mirror. Just write anything down you can think of, whatever's speaking to your heart at that time. And I spent a lot of time just like, who does God say I am? I'm like, God, please just fill me up with that because was so miserable. So just wrote a lot of those down and still live off of them.
I have one more question.
Okay. I have lots of answers.
I realize, yes.
I just want to get that comment from Gracie. I know he's going to put it across the screen. And I just think it says, she says, thank God with hands of praise. You have the ability to earn your own cash. Be strong and continue believe in God. That's for you, Laura.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much,
Oh.
Gracie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's sweet. Okay, Gabriella, back to you.
So I'm going to be devil's advocate here. So
OMG.
a lot of women, of faith will grapple with the belief that God hates divorce, right?
Yes.
And this was your solution and your exit strategy.
Mhm.
How do you, reconcile leaving an abusive relationship, with scriptural teachings on marriage and divorce?
Yes. Did you know God hates abuse more than God hating divorce? He does not want you in abuse. It is, I am not a biblical scholar, but there are plenty of, there's a couple that I listen to that really helped me reconcile that because that was a big deal. Not necessarily for me because I was okay. I had to get out or I was not going to survive. But for women who are sitting in the church who are being abused and they're living off of God hates divorce. Well, God hates abuse more, and that is in the Bible. And even the God hates divorce scripture, if you read the entire context, it talks about emotional abuse and things like that men were doing to women. And we have to remember we can't take one scripture, even though it's used that way, we can't take one scripture out of context. We have to really do the research. But God's bigger than this situation. God's bigger than this. He will you don't even need to be oh, I don't want to go here. You don't even need to be forgiven for this. Like it's okay. Like seriously, God hates abuse more. I've done a lot of research on this, and then there's other people who are scholars on this who will tell you more about it. And they'll tell you that narcissistic abuse is it's a reason to divorce.
Because it's not God's design. Although yes, God doesn't want, his intention is not for us to be divorced. At the end
Right?
of the day, his design for marriages is that the husband loves your wife as the
Yes.
church loves your wife. So if it is
Right.
you're in a situation where you're being emotionally abused, physically abused, how is that representing what Christ designed a marriage to be?
Right, and
So
he
I
right,
can
and he
totally
hasn't.
understand.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. Yes, it's true. We have to hold, we always take responsibility for ourselves, and we don't blame for abuse, but we do need to look at I had a hard time with that. That is just, why are you only worrying about me? Because people wanted me to forgive and move on. And I'm like, well, what about him? And while I'm not worried about an eye for an eye kind of thing, it's like, don't worry about me. Like, I'm okay. Like, I was okay with the situation. I've had my time with God. I know I'm okay. I'm not worried about that. And the narcissist is never, and the abuser is never going to repent. They're never going to, like we should be worrying about them, really. Like why are you worrying about me that I won't forgive him or whatever the situation is? But that's a whole other story, forgiveness and all that. But that people were worried. You should hurry up and forgive him. Give me a second. Like what are you in such a hurry for?
Yes.
Wow.
Wow. Laura,
Andy.
yeah, thank you, Gabriella. That was an amazing
Yes.
question there, Gabriella. That was deep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Laura,
Thank you.
thank you so much for being so open
Of course.
and wow. Abuse is not love. Thank you, Avril. That,
Right. Yes,
woo,
It's
Avril.
not.
yeah,
Thank you.
yep. That's so
No.
right. That's so right. In the back of my mind, Laura and Gabriella, and for all those who are viewing and who would see this later on, we recently had someone who came on, I think it was in season 2, in a similar situation, narcissistic abuse. And one of the things that she said that really moved me was that she also realized that even though she was a victim, that the person that she was with, her husband in that instance as well, was also a victim, but they didn't know it themselves. I want to
Mhm.
get your take on that, Laura. And she somehow or the other found a way to help him after, but they could not stay in a relationship because there was too much toxicity.
Yes.
But she recognized that he was also a victim and found a way to help him. I'm just throwing that out here, and I just
That's
want to
a
get your take.
really big can of worms you just opened up. My goodness.
I'm sorry, but it happened. It happened.
Okay, I have a few things to say about that.
Sure,
Yes,
sure.
like I know that he was. I know I can hold empathy. Look, I can hold two people, and I have empathy for that 6-year-old little boy that needed love from his mommy, and instead of getting love from her, was emotionally neglected, and he became a narcissist. Okay, I do not have any empathy for the grown man who chose to abuse instead of getting help. So those are the two things. Look, I'm sorry. This is just how I feel. And you know what? Maybe it'll give your audience something to talk about. But this is the thing. It's not our job to fix them because they're grown adults. It's not our job. And this is what we've been taught. And especially as women, we have been societalized to fix our man, stay forever to fix them. And if you just love them hard enough, you'll fix them. While everyone has to make a choice, I did that for 33 years. I see now that it's not my job to have done that. And especially with somebody who doesn't want help. Do you think he didn't realize he there's nothing wrong with him as far as like he has full capacity of his brain? Like there's nothing wrong with him. So he could figure out how to do things. He could figure out how not to abuse me. And you know how I know this? Because they don't abuse everybody. They only abuse who they want to abuse. And so that's how you know they know what they're doing. And it's not our job to go, "Hey, could you not abuse me?" No, they know because they're not abusing everybody else. They're only abusing you.
Wow. Yeah. I hear you and I feel you. So Avril is asking, thanks for sharing your story. How can we connect? Wow. So I would ask our producer Dex to just, if he can paste and copy your connecting social hashtag hands, but probably you can just tell her how best she can reach out to you, Laura.
Sure. Well, my podcast is called That's Where I'm At Podcasts. And so everything all over social media is That's Where I'm At Podcast, and That's Where I'm At Podcast.com. And yeah, we can connect. I work with people one on one, and I will walk beside you to help you understand what's going on and help you dream for the future.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, Laura, in terms of the writing, let's go to the books that you have written.
Hmm.
Which one really stands out the most in your mind as the effective and efficient tool that you really want women to get the most out of based on your personal experience?
So my book, Married to a Nice Guy, Getting Over Narcissistic Abuse, is my personal story, but I also tell you not only my story, but I tell you what happened. And and when my ex was doing something, what does it mean in regard to narcissistic abuse so that you understand what was going on? So, yes, it's my story. Yes, it's sort of a tell all and I kind of, told everything, but it's also informative. I put a glossary in there. And so if someone reads it, they could really understand what was going on. Uh, by this time, I feel like I wrote it almost a year ago. I feel like I probably could write another one. So I think I probably will. I just want people really informed of what goes on. And not only that, I want you to know you're not alone and that
Hmm.
there is hope on the other side.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Bernadine S. Woods. She says, excellent topic. And I hope men are looking and listening because they are victims of emotional abuse too.
Yes,
Wow.
they are. Yeah, the majority
Wow.
is women and men are narcissists, but yes, there are men and I am in some groups where there are men who are being emotionally abused. And
Wow.
that's really shameful. And so thank you for, having me on to talk about this subject. And usually I just am interviewed by women, so thank you for interviewing me and being the representative for the men today. I appreciate that.
Thanks much. Avril says, may God bless you with many stars in your crown.
Oh,
Wow.
I love
Laura,
that.
Laura, just
I
basking it.
And Avril, you don't know, you're so prophetic because crowns are my thing.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
my thing. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. So I'm just going to hand you over to Gabriella. And after that, we're going to have one of our promo videos being played. Gabs?
Yes. Laura, do you have any children? Before I
I
ask
do.
this
I have
question.
three grown children. Yes.
Okay. And how did this affect, your children being in this relationship and even the leaving that divorce, when you decided to divorce, how did
Yeah.
this impact on the children?
Yeah, we thought we were, I always thought we were keeping it a secret or that they didn't really know, but they knew. And our oldest was 29 when we got divorced. and they congratulated me for leaving because they knew I was miserable. And so even after that, we had a lot of healing to do, me and my kids, because as when I was in abuse, I was also a very yelly, screaming mom who was always anxious and upset, and and so I have a lot of regret about that, but I've done a lot of healing with them, a lot of apologizing. We've had so much healing. And I want to tell everybody it's never too late to apologize to your kids. Never. And there would be things I thought of and said, "Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry that I did that to you when you were whatever age." Let me tell you, there's been so much healing. The relationship I have with my children now is a miracle, because I never thought that they would ever like me, because the rhetoric going through the family was that mom's crazy and mom's terrible. She's a terrible mom, all those things, because that's what he was saying to them. And they agreed. They just kind of were in agreement with that. But now I have healing, and I've been vulnerable. I've humbled myself and apologized to them. And they've actually apologized to me too. So I have a great relationship. But yes, they did congratulate me when I left. It was a surprise. It was a surprise to me too. They just knew. We think we're keeping it, quiet, but they know.
And how was their mindset in terms of towards their father? Are they have
Yeah.
they forgiven, or are they struggling, with those
Yeah.
things?
Yeah, they've had a hard time. There's been a lot of lies that they've had to unravel. As we're learning lies and betrayals, they've had a hard time. So they're still struggling after a couple of years. I think they all have a relationship with him. I try not to talk about their dad with them because I don't like it and my nervous system doesn't like it. And so they will talk to me sometimes, but not often. And I think they all have a relationship with him, but they do struggle with it. They do not have a relationship with his new wife, because she was part of the problem. I don't know how else to say that. I'm trying to be really tactful. She was part of the problem. And so they do not wish to have a relationship with her, and they don't.
Awesome.
Whoa, Laura, you have really created a great opportunity for us to see this from so many different angles. Here
Yes.
goes Avril again. Wow. Yeah,
Wow.
she's taken a lot of wow out of us. So
Thank you,
Yeah.
Avril.
we, yeah, we just want to run one of our promo videos and we'll get back to Laura in about just under 1.5 minutes or so. Next.
Life has a way of throwing challenges at us, whether it's emotional struggles, difficult decisions, or simply feeling stuck. But what if there was a place where you could find not just solutions, but also the tools to create a brighter, more confident future? That's what Gabriella's Double Impact Solutions is here for. Our tagline is mentoring minds, empowering lives. It's more than just words, it's the heart of what we do. We combine counseling to help you heal and process life difficulties with mentorship that offers practical guidance for your personal growth and future success. It's about building strength for today and clarity for tomorrow. We also understand that everyone's journey is different. That's why we offer both secular counseling and faith-based counseling grounded in Christian principles for those who desire a spiritual foundation in their healing process. No matter your preference, we meet you where you are. At Gabriella's Double Impact Solutions, mental health is our priority because we know it's the foundation for everything else. Whether you're navigating personal challenges, seeking direction in your career, or striving to build emotional resilience, we are here to help you strive. Solutions, healing, and a future filled with purpose. That's what you'll find at Gabriella's Double Impact Solutions. Visit us today at www.gabriellasdoubleimpact.com to start your journey, because we are mentoring minds, empowering lives. Let's grow together.
Okay, great, wonderful. We are back live, and this episode is entitled Getting Over Narcissistic Abuse with Laura Richards. And she has been a gold mine of information and experience We thank you so much for being vulnerable and open. Laura, I'm going to put you on the spot a bit with this question because I'm thinking about it in my mind, and I'm trying to kind of bridge the gap between where you were during that period of time to where you are now. And I'm asking you, let's just imagine that you had the opportunity to go back into your past. Is there anything you would have changed if you could have? And if so, how?
Wow, that's a really good question.
Hmm.
We can spend a lot of time doing shoulda, coulda, woulda. That's really hard because I do think about that. I've thought different things of like, I wish I would have seen it sooner, things like that. And then I think to myself, that's not who I was. I wouldn't have left. I left when it was time. And when I saw it when I needed to see it. And I think that's what's important for people who are seeing this now. You saw it when you were supposed to see it. You learned about it when you were supposed to learn about it. This isn't a coincidence. Because I think if I would have known sooner, or maybe I would have found out some of his lies sooner or something, what I don't know what I would have done. It took working on myself and learning how to love myself and what my worth and my value was before I would ever consider leaving or doing anything. Like I'm never going to be in a relationship like that again because I know my worth and value now, but I didn't know it then. And even if I would have known my worth and value, I don't know. It's hard to look back. And so we can't beat ourselves up. And I know you really wanted to know the answer to that, but I want people to be careful with that question because I did that when I left. Why didn't I see it? Why didn't I leave sooner? Why didn't I pressure him more to answer my questions? And why did I believe his lies? Even though I thought they were lies, why did I believe them? We can't beat ourselves up. So it's the time when it's the time. So, yeah.
Wow. So, what does the future look like now from this perspective, in terms of your plans, in terms of what you're looking to achieve and accomplish?
Mhm.
What's happening with your family and stuff? I
Yeah.
know it looks bright because I can see that in your outlook. We can hear it in
Yes.
your face. We can feel that emotion. But
Yeah.
is there anything specific that you're working on that's also going to help others as well to
Yes.
advance their cause? Yes?
Yes, I'm actually, I have a course that I'm creating. It's a healing system that, I have a group of for women. That's who I work with is women in midlife because that's who I am. And I want people to know that there's still time. We can still dream. And I have a new granddaughter, so I just want to spend as much time as I can with her. And that's why when I look at her, I say, that's why I became the curse breaker, the chain breaker. That, I was not going to pass this kind of toxic stuff onto her, and I'm not gonna allow it through the rest of my family. And so I continue to work on myself and make sure that I'm the best, Laura I can be and the best grandma I can be, and then just continue helping others. I do have one-on-one support, and I do have a group starting to help women.
Wonderful. Congratulations to
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Hooray, hooray to Laura.
Yes.
Wesley Ryan is making a comment here, and I think he's asking a question. Yeah. So he says, "Pleasant evening, Miss Laura. May God continue to grant you strength to enjoy life. If I may ask, what does that 33 years done to you going into a new wow, he brave.
Oh, I'm okay. I've heard it all. I'm okay. That's not scaring me. That doesn't scare me. I will tell you
Okay.
that we need to be careful before we rush into another relationship. What it's
Yeah.
done to me right now is I'm learning who I am and
Yes.
what I like, and I'm enjoying my peace. Okay,
Yes.
that's what I'm doing. I'm enjoying my peace. We do not have to rush into another relationship, but I mean, maybe I'm overcorrecting right now, but I'm very happy right now. If I decide in the future that I want to date somebody, fine. But right now, I'm learning how to heal what was broken. That was a lot of years that somebody really broke my spirit. As much as I'm healed and healing, there's still things I just am enjoying myself. The freedom I have and learning who I am. I didn't even know who I was what I even liked on an enchilada. I had no idea because I was never allowed to choose. So now I'm just learning who I am and what I want out of life. And I'm enjoying that right now. And then later, we'll see later about another relationship.
Thank you so much. Okay, we just have about 4 minutes to go. Gabriella, over to you.
Um, Laura, so much things that you covered.
I know.
But for women who may be listening right now and they're afraid to leave, but they're also
Mhm.
afraid to stay, what advice would you give to them?
Ah, they're in kind of limbo.
If they what? Yeah, if they're afraid to leave.
And they're afraid to stay.
Yeah. Well, I would start making a plan, and then maybe start seeking therapy, whatever that looks like for you. Um, and we did talk about it when like in the church, if somebody wants to go in the church, you have to be careful for the churches that do promote only divorce. God hates divorce, so you have to be careful of that because when you think you're in abuse, it can be dangerous for people who don't understand it. And so I would seek a trauma informed therapist that
Mm-hmm.
can help you maybe make a plan, and
Yes.
maybe calling. I have tons of resources, maybe calling one of the resources that I have to have a discussion. And because we don't know what's on the other side, we can't know what's in our future. So we have to take that initiative and just say, I'm going to make that future. It might be hard. You have to choose your hard, don't you? Like we can stay and be miserable and maybe be in danger, or we can leave and then we have control of what's going on around us.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you so much for your courage and honesty. You really are a beacon of hope, Laura.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yes.
it.
It's Laura, it's sad that and Gabriella can testify to it, and many of our viewers in the Caribbean, it's a sad situation where we have seen women lose their lives in relationships
Yeah.
where even restraining orders didn't work, and
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing that, and I may get in trouble for saying this, but in some instances I think the system has failed
Has failed.
some of our
Yes.
women.
Oh no,
It's
they
the
have
truth.
it has
It's
failed
the
it.
truth. It's the truth. And we have to find a way in which we can really create that emotional, spiritual, physiological, psychological support. It's holistic. The way you explain
Yeah.
it, it opened my mind to so many things that needs to be done. Our work is cut out for us. But at the end of the day, we have to believe that there's hope, as you rightfully say, and
Yes. Yeah.
not beat up ourselves too much or, point the finger at us. But as you also rightfully say, just look at yourself in the mirror at times and just be appreciative of how special and beautiful and wonderful and
Yeah.
well defined God has created you. And
Yes.
everyone has their beauty, whether it's inner or outer, however you choose to describe it, but just be grateful and thankful that you have that. So, wow,
Yes.
it's been an amazing episode. So now we'll just have one more run of the thought of the week and we'll wrap up things. Next. Okay, great. So the thought of the week, gentlemen, and this is aligned to gentlemen, the best of men face challenges daily. That's what we do, guys. And the least of men run from them. And we have seen that too many times in our society. So, with that closing remark on the thought of the week, we are saying thank you so much for being with us on this episode. And for those who are going to see it later, tell someone, tell a friend, tell a family member. Every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. AST time, we are starting a new episode with a new guest, and we're going to ask Laura to come back at some point in the future. And we're also going to ask her to hold on for a minute after it has completed. I know our producer wants to have just maybe a couple of questions for her. We'd appreciate that. But until then, this is Andy Charles and my co host.
Gabriella Woods.
International Women's Week. We are
Yes,
saying
you
thank
giving me
you so
that
much.
power.
Yes, yes, you got it. You got it. Thank you
Yes.
so much. And in all that you do, people, do everything that you can to continue to break out of
Pressure.
depression. Bye for now. We love you. God bless. Until next time. Take care.
There ain't got no way, I'm gonna make it without my Lord, no. Ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord, no. Ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord, no. Ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. Trouble in my way, but daily hear me say, ain't got no way, ain't got no way, ain't got no way, ain't got no way. The harvest is plenty, Lord, but the workers are so few. Ain't got no